In this next article from the Daily Mail, Michelle Obama calls Donald Trump racist as she pleads with undecided voters to end 4 years of chaos and vote for Biden like your lives depend on it, with lots of air quotes today. In blistering 24-minute video, Joe the Groper Biden, the one who likes to grope women, uh, he released a video, or his campaign has released a 24-minute video from former First Lady Michelle Obama, where she tears into Donald Trump's record. She accuses Trump of using fear and confusion and spreading lies to win. I'm accusing her of the exact same thing. She said Americans are being sold lies from people who want to get rich or stay in power or something both. Accuses Trump and his allies of stoking fears about black and brown Americans and lying about how minorities will destroy the suburbs. I'm unaware exactly what she's talking about when she's saying that. So maybe she's talking about Black Looter Mob, because he's shaming Black Looter Mob, because to her it's Black Lives Matter. She thinks, oh no, they're on our side, so that means they have to be on the side of right, and it's just about police brutality. Only that's not what's actually going on. It's about a lot more than police brutality. It's more, it's a leftist movement where they're justifying rioting, looting, murdering, terrorizing communities for hundreds of days at a time over police violence in cities they don't even live in. It's the most frustrating thing. I live in Eugene, Oregon, and they've had these BLM Antifa Nazi, or Blaman, riots going on in Portland, and there's hardly any police shootings here, and there's hardly any black people here, and the crime rate with the black people in Portland is really, really high. It's like 3 times as high as the white communities. And it's pretty sketchy. Like, I went to Portland State University, and I used to have to walk through the hood in downtown Portland with like my trumpet and all my engineering gear. And I always felt like I was going to get mugged down there. It's pretty sketchy. There's like prostitutes and people selling crack and meth and banging heroin all over the place. And definitely, if you're like a pasty white boy like me, like walking around the hood with like expensive stuff, is like, you feel like you're going to get mugged down there for sure. It's pretty sketchy. And it's like, the people who are down there rioting, they're like all white, pretty much. Actually, I think like 10% of the people that were at the protest were black. But like, they don't want to own up for the responsibilities for the crime problems. They want to say, no, you're racist if you say anything in counter to that. And like, I've had good friends of mine burn me, stop talking to me, because they said I was being racist by not supporting the Black Looter Mob, because they think black, oh, this is like Black lives, and that means it's like black people. So if you don't support the Black Looter Mob, then you're racist. It's just a very simplistic thought process that wasn't really very well thought out, where they're just making associations based off of tribes. They think you're not in our tribe, so that means that you're the problem because it's not their tribe that's actually causing the problems. It's outside forces. It's the racist Republicans that are in the poor rural states that are holding down all the minorities up in the big cities. And that's because the Republicans don't live there. So they're an easy scapegoat. They'll never be able to respond to your attacks because they don't live there. So obviously, they couldn't possibly be holding down the minorities in the big Democratic run shitholes. But they've repeated this narrative enough to where they believe it. They believe that anybody who questions this dogma is in the other tribe, and that person is the boogeyman, and that because some of theirs have been killed, this justifies them taking out one of ours, which could be my life, which would leave my son fatherless, and would traumatize my mother and my family. But to them, they don't care because it would be sending a message that this is what happens when you don't side with their tribe. Their tribe will come and take out one of yours. And then they normalize this behavior. And then the politicians start believing that this is the normal behavior that they can engage in. And then you end up with extreme political corruption and degrading into authoritarianism. Then you get a strong man that comes along and gives you an answer through some story that provides you a solution to you being able to regain your glory. And then we end up with Nazism here in America. Just fundamentally why all these socialists are just like toxic. They're like glowing radioactive toxic. Because they think that they're justified in breaking the law because of atrocities that people did before I was even born. They think that they've never really had to, probably never met a eugenicist. They've never met somebody who believed that other people were genetically inferior to them. They just think that like all racists are the same. They think that like a white supremacist is the same thing as like an Aryan supremacist, and that only white people can be racist. And so this is what justifies them lashing out and attacking the white males, because they're the ones who are the bad people who are using their power to oppress people from their tribe. And so they have to attack these people. And then it causes a lot of collateral damage. It messes with people's lives, makes people hate each other, and can eventually cause civil wars. So it's definitely not something that we want to engage in. And most of these liberals, they pretend like they're super cool. They pretend like they're like open-minded, but in reality, they're not at all. They're extremely dogmatic, and that you can't be open-minded and then block people on Facebook left and right. You're by definition a bigot, because you're just intolerant of people based off of flash judgments. But a lot of people separate you based on class. If you are higher class, you are allowed to say sexist and racist things because more people respect you. If you can get away with saying those things without being canceled, then you are of higher status than them, and that means that you to them, you're a big threat. So they have to take you out. And then they're saying, see, I just got a problem with this abuse of the term racist because people just don't even know what anti-white racism is. Anti-white racism is where you blame white people for the 6% of white people that owned black slaves. They blame you for the when they start calling you Nazis, they're blaming you for the Holocaust. And these are just these are things that just white people did. They think that all throughout history, the minorities have always been just the victim. Like none of them ever did anything wrong to their own people. Like it was only white people that came and victimized the minorities, and that this means that it justifies you being mean to white people, in particular white males, because they have white privilege. They have white male privilege, which is a special kind of white privilege. It is the extra potent kind that when you get some, it makes you into a superior person. And so this is a big time threat to them because they can't compete unless they get some of that white male privilege. So they are always attacking us. So back in the day, whenever there was real racism, the white people attacked the black people. They would like lynch them. They would do crimes to them. In today's society, there's about 20,000 homicides in the United States each year, and half of them are committed by African Americans, but there's 6 times as many white people. For every single person a white person kills, black people kill 6 in the United States. For every single white person that a black person kills, a black person will kill 12 white people. And then the violent assault rates are extremely high. It's like some of the rates are like I think it was simple assault. It's like, or no, aggravated assault is like 200 times more black people aggravated assaulting white people as vice versa. They're the ones that are trying to attack us to remove us from the workplace. They're the ones that are always causing a fuss about racism. So logically, you must conclude that they're anti-white racist, that they're using this racism line as an attack because it works. Because people agree white supremacy is bad and they condemn it, like I condemn it. But they don't stop at that because, you know, whenever you found a political tactic that works, you don't just stop using it. You know, what you have to do is you have to expand the definition so that you can keep the battle going. So you have to expand what racism means to put as many people into the racist category as possible and the far right category so that you can perpetually attack your political opponent using these tactics. This is what's really, really scary about the Democrats' behavior, because functionally what they've done is they've looked at the immigration data like this. I pull this out a lot. It's from the Census Bureau, document called A Changing Nation, Population Projections Under Alternative Immigration Scenarios. And you can see on the chart on page 5, figure 1, U.S. population 1900 to 2016, population projections 2017 to 2060. And what you'll see is that our population has been going up at this rate, and that they're expecting the middle line, the main series, that's their predictions, which would leave us put us at 404.5 million people. We're at 330 million, so that's 70 million more. And so the Democrats, 2/3 of immigrants will vote for Democrats. And so this is why Democrats want more immigration, because it'll give them this number, this 446.9. And these people will come into big cities where Democrats live, and then they'll be at the bottom of the social hierarchy, and then they'll vote for the Democrats who are saying they're trying to help them move up the social hierarchy. But in reality, they're at the top, and they're trying to make sure that they stay at the top, and they have a lot of resources so they can do that. So you could see that there's a delta. The Republicans want the low immigration scenario, which is 376.2 million. And some people want, like in between here, there's like citizens exchange, and then citizens exchange with extra family members around here. And so there's only a couple of paths. And this is why the Democrats behave the way they do, is because oh, that's not it. Sorry. I've got this one in a silly folder that I probably shouldn't have it in. Voting, yeah. This is from Pew Research Center, an examination of the 2016 electorate based on validated voters. Shows you a chart of who's voting for Democrats. On this chart, here we can see 91% of Black people voted for Democrats, about 2/3 of Hispanics, and it doesn't show Asians, but it's like almost all Asians. Higher percentage than Black people, and they're only 1/3 of Black people are actually liberals. About 1/3 of them are moderates, and about 1/3 are conservative. I would argue that the moderates are actually conservative. But this is why they push racism. It's because they are trying to control the big Democrat-run cities. And in those cities, there's a large number of minorities, and they live at the bottom of this social hierarchy because they are poor, most of them. And so they are also a key voting bloc because of how large their community is. And so when they bring in more immigrants, 2/3 of them, as long as 2/3 of them are voting for Democrats, then they will be able to control the voting blocks in the big cities. And with the going back to that graph, now you can see if there's no immigration, there'll be 319.7 million people. And what that means is that our birth rate in the United States is under replacement rate, and our people are dying off. And it's because feminism is causing women to put off having a child until their 30s. And when you do that, you will have on average one child. So feminism is killing our people off because our population is still going up. So it would be nice. There's like global warming. It'd be nice if our population went down. That would be ideal, because then it would reduce global warming. But Democrats, all they care about is they don't want to sound like they're racist. They don't want people to say that they're a white supremacist or they're a misogynist. So to them, the only path that's acceptable is the high path, the unrestricted immigration path, where they don't kick out the illegal immigrants, and then they maximize the amount of people that come in. But there's a really big problem with this, is that it causes our people Americans to no longer be in control of our country. So I was born in 1982. It's about like right over here. And so this is the growth of the immigrant community. So they've gone from 5% to 10%. And they want to keep growing that number because these people vote for Democrats, and a large amount of the people we're bringing in from the out of the country are socialists. And this is just such a bad idea. It's like, okay, if our birth rate is low, this happens to Black people. Asians are like only child. Latinos their populations are shrinking too. So when we bring in too many people, it makes it so that all of the growth, our families are shrinking, and then the families that are growing are from out of the country, which they're lovely, beautiful people. Great to have new genetics introduced. But it's like, this is just the only reason why we want to continue this line like this would be for political purposes. That's the only reason why, is because you say, no, we want to have 1 million immigrants per year. And they don't care that it causes us to have to compete with these people. So when you bring in a bunch of poor people from outside of the country and you stick them in big cities, they end up being stuck at the lower class. So when you bring in too many minorities, it causes them to be in the permanent underclass. So there was no point in immigrating from their old country, because they would have made the same amount of money. They're stuck now at the bottom of the class in these big Democratic-run cities. And so they're trying to say that it's racism if you try to advocate for anything other than the high immigration scenario. And it's because they win. It's like it's a globalist thing. So like the people who are funding Democrats are like Chinese government is giving all kinds of Democrats these backroom deals, like Hunter Biden, like this guy, the Coke freak. And so all these other countries want to bring in all their people into our country. So they want these really liberal immigration laws. But there's a problem, is like, this is like a very short period of time, this graph to 2060. Like, this thing is very short. I'll be alive. So during my life, we'll see double the amount of people, but they're not Americans. They're like, we doubled them because we bring in 1 million people per year. And then you bring that out over 40 years, that's 40 million people. And then they're going to have kids. And then you can see that there's a lot of people there. And the Democrats just don't care about that. To them, they just don't want to sound racist. So they say, no, we can only have the high graph. Why am I going off about this? This is anti-white racism. This is that. I'm trying to tie this into the article. With Michelle Obama, and they're always going off. The white man's racist. And so the only policies you're allowed to support now are policies that are against white people, that don't help them out. But then 72% of the United States is white. So when you push this racist agenda, it's like it sucks all the oxygen out of the room. It makes it so that anybody who is on the other side, now you're like a racist, you're a bigot, because you don't want to flood our country with foreigners. And if you want to enforce the immigration laws and kick the illegal immigrants out, now you're like the same thing as a Nazi. Uh, and it's just, I'm so sick and tired of it. I'm tired of covering this. I don't want to have to explain immigration to you. Like with that chart that we just saw, like people don't want to talk about that. And it's because they say that that's white supremacist because you would be protecting the majority of America. But as you can see, you know, it really is just a power grab. Like it's the method that they use to control the voters. And it's because the people that they would bring in, almost all the Asians vote for Democrats. 2/3 of the Latinos vote for Democrats. And almost all the black people vote for Democrats, right? So when you bring in a lot of immigrants, the Democrats win in elections because of the demographics of the situation. So this is why the Democrats are doing this. And it's because they look at this and they say, when you look at the census numbers, you can't not support the immigrants because they're going to come and take over anyways. And yeah, we shouldn't be rude to them, but we have a problem with globalists. And so there's 3 different types of people, or 4 different types of classes of people. There's anarchists, there's tribalists, and where people have their tribes, our tribe versus your tribe. Lots of wars with tribalism. And then there's nationalism, where you have a national, your tribe is your nation. And then you have globalism. So American nationalism is where you would say, okay, this number is, this high number is too much. That's 40 plus million extra people. Like this is not acceptable. Like people, their kids have to compete with these people. They're a tremendous burden on our environment. We have pristine forests. We don't have infinite resources. We can't just grow on this curve infinitely. If we do that, we'll turn into like China or India. It'll be like overpopulated with people everywhere. So we have to take one of these lines. And I think most people would say that the low one, okay, so there's citizens exchange right here. Am I on the right monitor? Sorry, on the wrong monitor. So here's the citizens exchange just about right there. And then there's citizens exchange with family right there. And then, I don't know, I think in general, we should go for this low thing because, I mean, it does work out in our best interest if we, hold on. There's a problem. The other problem is we're like, okay, well, we could take the best and the brightest from the rest of the world. And so that's why you would say, instead of citizens exchange, we would want that. Okay, so I'm trying to tie this into the story. But whenever you take the best and the brightest from other countries, you're kind of like taking all their best stuff. It's like, with the Obama people, this is really, it's who you got to look at who they're targeting. Who is the target demographic? Who is Michelle Obama trying to target? When she's saying this stuff, this woman, she's a political mastermind. Her husband was president in the United States. So who is this woman talking to in her 24-minute rant? Who's the audience? What's the business model? Who are they trying to court? They're trying to court voters for Democrats. And sorry, having a little trouble with the air mouse. And then this is who it is. It's this chart. It's how you control the country. And I have a big problem with this because this is not America first. I believe that in order to bring everybody in America together, we cannot flood America with like a whole bunch of immigrants at the same time because it'll cause we're not just going to give up our resources. It's going to be us at the top, and then there's going to be a bunch of people, the immigrant class of people down at the bottom. So in order for us to integrate into one community and one family, we have to restrict immigration a little bit. Like we can't just have it unrestricted. Like it has to. It's best in everybody's best interest that we restrict it to some degree. We can argue about what that degree is, but it's wrong to demonize people. This is fundamentally what I have a problem with, is they expand the definition of racism. I'm actually tying the point together. Yay. They are expanding the definition of racism because they want as many people voting for them as possible. So what they want to do is they want to say that anybody who wants to restrict immigration at all is a racist, because you're trying to protect the white people of America, that they can't, and that's anti-white racism. That's where you're saying, wait a minute, you're saying, no, the white people don't have a right to enforce their immigration laws or to even vote or even discuss these immigration laws because you're racist if you talk about restricting immigration because some Nazis wanted to restrict immigration. So therefore, anybody who wants to restrict immigration is now a Nazi. And this is bad politics. This is poison. This is radioactive toxic, because really all they care about is this blue part. That's all they care about. They don't care about anybody here in the red. All they care about is making these blue bars as big as possible. And that's poison. That's not good politics. They should be working in the best interest of the majority of people. Best interest in the majority of the people is that we don't bring in a whole bunch of competition from the outside world and then end up with a bunch of Chinese millionaires who are got funny money from the Chinese government, who can now take over large sections of our economy, buy out key industry players, and next thing you know, the Chinese government's pulling the levers, right? So like there's obvious things, there's like national security reasons why we need to do that. But I think one of the most important things is just to be able to have a frank discussion about it, because talking about immigration, you know, what percentage of people that were watching the stream would have said, this guy's a white supremacist, I'm out, dislike, this guy sucks, piece of shit, and then slander my name all over the place? Because it happens. Because I know that happens, so that's why I talk about it. Because this is an intellectual dark web channel. It's on the intellectual dark web because they win. It's an argument method. When they win and they can shame you as just being racist, when in reality, you're trying to conserve your country's culture and tradition. Because if we just bring in a whole bunch of immigrants, like really quickly, then our cultures and traditions that we've built for centuries now just disappear. They're gone. The new people, they never got introduced to our Christmas traditions and our Thanksgivings and our 4th of Julys. Like they're against the 4th of July. They don't like the 4th of July. They don't like guns. They don't like free speech. They might support communism. They also might be vastly smarter than you, and they will come and dominate and be at the top. Competition's a good thing, but you're not supposed to just let the fox in the hen house, right? So let's say that okay, I have a hen house and it's got a bunch of hens in it, and then if I let in this percentage of hens into the hen house for this period of time, I'll get X wolves. Okay. Would you just let the hens into the hen house with the wolves? No. If that number of wolves is greater than 1, then we do not let the hens in the hen house. We go and we get the wolves out of the hen house. So this is the best analogy for immigration and for the policies that we should strive for. Is we should strive for inclusion for everyone, but that includes the people who live here. The people who, because like people are trying to say white people are bad because some white people owned slaves hundreds of years ago and they quote unquote took the land from the American Indians, even though they didn't have a government, and 95% up to 95% of them died from smallpox. So it was like unoccupied territory, and they didn't have a government to kick us out. They're like tribes. Like, I mean, it'd be nice if they all didn't die from smallpox and there was more Amerindians, because they're wonderful, beautiful people. But we can't change history, and it's not my fault. I had nothing to do with it. My family didn't own slaves. We didn't have anything to do with it. Don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I can't stand how they are constantly using this racism in federal politics, because most Democrats live in big cities. Most of these big cities, the Democrats are going to control you rising up the social hierarchy. And so when they're saying it's the racist white man that's holding down the minorities in the big cities, it's really just a scapegoat in order for you to not attack them, because it's them that are in the ivory tower that won't hire the minorities. They just want to hire the cheap immigrant labor. See, you gotta think it's all financial motivation with these people. It's all money game to them. They're not going to tell you this, but it is. This is the way that people operate. And this is especially the way that people operate in the ivory tower, where there's a boat ton of money and people get really, really, really high paid salaries. They will always scapegoat the other people that aren't there as to the reason why the people at the bottom are oppressed. It's because they want you to vote for them. They want you to work for them. They want to stay at the top of the ivory tower. So they will continually use racism because they need a source of cheap immigrant labor for their corporations. They do. They need the H-1B visas. They need the Asian immigrants. The white guys are just doing shitty. This is part of the reason why a lot of this stuff's happening too, is because the white guys are doing really bad in school. And it's because they're not in the study groups with the white chicks. They're like, I think it's like, uh, 60% of the college degrees are today are like being women have them, and women own almost 2/3 of the wealth in the U.S. now. So this narrative that women are underpaid, actually false. But they tell you, no, women are that these women are still underpaid, and that there's like this patriarchy of people, and it's because they're oppressing the women, and it's because it fits their worldview. They want more money. In order to get more money, they have to come up in the workplace while the white man goes down. And because of this, the women are getting diversity tickets, and then the men aren't getting that. And our people are being not competitive anymore. I'm a software and computer engineer. I love education. I love science. I wrote the world's fastest number printing algorithm for integers, and then it optimizes floating point number algorithms. And so I wish that there was more people into science, technology, engineering, math, entrepreneurship, and design, and education. I wish that was going on, but it's not. And Democrats aren't addressing the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that the nuclear family has been degrading with black people my whole life. Less than or single digit numbers of two-parent African Americans in two-parent households were in poverty. the number one determining factor whether or not minorities are in poverty is the nuclear family. And this is the thing that's degrading, it's falling apart. And what the Democrats are doing doesn't help. It's just a tactic. The racism is just a tactic that they're using in order to scapegoat the problems in the big city so that they can maintain control by giving people money. That's what they say. They're just like, oh, vote for me, and then you'll get this money, you'll get that money. At least with the Republicans, they're saying, vote for me and you'll get a tax cut. We won't take as much of your money. The Democrats, they just want to take money from one group of people and give it to the other people. And if you don't want to do that, then you're racist. And that's the problem, is that most socialists live in big cities. Most Democrats live in big cities. And so it becomes a proxy for socialism. What do we got?